Welcome to this module, which talks about the trends that are reshaping the world of computer system security. In this module, we'll try to provide answers to two questions. How have we changed and why are we more susceptible to different types of attacks? And how have attackers changed and what's motivating them now? The first catalyst for change is the birth of the new technological society. The internet, or to be more precise, social networking services, have significantly changed the lifestyles of many people. This shift can easily be observed. Humans, as social beings, have throughout history visited and interacted with their neighbors, friends, colleagues, and so on. Information was exchanged within small groups. These communities were made up of members that knew each other fairly well, knew about each other's lives, and had a relationship of conditioned trust. This trust is similar to a situation where you're likely to trust a person that's lived next to you for 15 years enough to ask them to care for your house while you're away. Social networking services brought about a change in the way humans behave. Why do some people talk of the Facebook era? If Facebook were a country with over 1 billion users, it would be the third most populated in the world, just behind China and India. Also, the number of Facebook users has risen very rapidly. The popularity of this service makes it unlike anything else, speaking historically and globally. Radio, which was also a revolutionary invention, needed half a century to get to 50 million users. Though of course the world's population was much smaller then. Television, which was also revolutionary, needed 13 years to reach 50 million users. It took Facebook just a year to get to 200 million users. This suggests a major change in our lifestyle. Why is this topic relevant to computer system security? One of the features Facebook offers is collecting friends. The average number of friends on Facebook is 150. Especially in the younger demographic where there's a large group of people who have over 500 friends. I can't even imagine how you could socially interact, like you interact with your neighbors or friends from work, with this many people. Either I'm the only person who can't do it, or it's simply impossible. It could also be that the definition of friend has changed. A friend is no longer someone you can trust. It's someone you want to attach your profile with to make you look good. This is how we create our internet brand. Whether it's moral to do so is beyond the scope of this discussion. It's relevant, however, that all friends we pick up on the internet have access to a lot of our personal information. This is the information we publish ourselves on social media profiles. In the past, gaining information was complicated, time-consuming, and expensive. Today, all sorts of information is available about almost anybody, and accessing it doesn't require money. All it takes is to create an account on any given social networking site. Among our internet-only friends, there could be people who only pretend to be normal users. Creating a false identity is really easy in the internet. Why would anyone want to do it? To gain our trust and to get to know us better, which makes an attack on our computer system stand a better chance of succeeding. I'm talking about a socio-technical attack here. Let's see the amount of information that you can find on yourself on the web. To do this, other than look at public websites and services, attackers also use specialized tools. The demand for information is so huge that there are special paid information research services dedicated to finding information. Let's start with a site called Icanstock. In the slide, you can see how the service looked when it was active. It was shut down after a year. We'll visit it later and we'll see why it was closed. The site was geared towards raising awareness that posting a picture on social media pages revealed not only the image itself, but also disclosed information on when and where it was taken. All current smartphones and many professional cameras automatically add geolocation data to pictures. And there are applications and tools on the internet that let you view the information embedded in images. Icanstock tracked information from pictures published on social media pages for a year. As you can see, tons of confidential information on people was disclosed every minute. This is a relatively harmless feature in some cases, but can be really risky in others. As it turns out, this poses a great risk for some groups of people. American soldiers who were stationed in Iraq, for example, would take pictures of themselves standing next to a new chopper and upload it to a social networking service. The pictures were seen by terrorists who would use the embedded coordinates to identify the location of the base and where the choppers flew. This ended in the destruction of 4 choppers. This is why you need to think before you post personal information on the web. We'll come back to Icanstock in a moment. Let's now take a look at findmypast.com and intellius.com. Both sites allow you to search the internet and find public records and information. What's the goal of this? If you provide the first and last name of a person, Intellius will run a check to find public information on that person. The search utilizes not only classic engines like Google or Bing, but also social media sites. As you can see, there's a number of results for the submitted name. Intellius has the phone numbers and addresses for these people and knows where they lived before. Full background reports on a selected person can be generated and purchased. For about $30, you'll receive access to the person's date of birth, address, phone number, related people list, and address history. You'll know the results of the person's criminal check, know if they had any financial problems, and see the handles they used online and much more. Identity theft, especially when it's carried out over the internet, is child's play when you have a database like this at your disposal. By using the personal details in the real world, a criminal can get a bank loan or rent a car in that person's name. Find My Past makes use of similar features. The service was set up to help people find relatives that they'd lost touch with. In some countries, documents such as birth and marriage records are digitalized and can be accessed online. You can view a scanned birth certificate on the internet. The certificate contains a lot of interesting information. If you have access to a records database and find a person who's died recently, you can assume that person's identity in different states or countries by using their personal details. After submitting a registration form and paying a monthly fee, Find My Past will provide us with desired information. If you know the first and last name of a person, you can access their full history and background. KGBpeople.com and Spokayo.com belong to another type of search engines that are based on social media. Let's see how they work. Let's start with KGBpeople.com. To use the embedded social media search engine, you need to know the first and last name of a person. We'll type in John. It's a very popular name, but we don't want to find any specific information. We just want to show you how the search engine works. As you can see, several profiles have been found. There are profiles on Twitter, Facebook, MySpace, Blogger, and Dig, among others. All the shown mechanisms have been used to find internet traces of our John. Also, Flickr and YouTube were checked. John's personal information was found. This information contains facts and tags connected to a person who has this name. It's enough now to pick one of the Johns and learn more about this person. Spokayo.com, also a search engine, works in a similar way. Let's type in David this time. Spokayo.com's mechanisms are similar to those implemented in kgbpeople.com. It's a free internet service which checks social networking sites and traditional search engines for submitted criteria such as first and last names and email addresses. The site returns geographical locations connected to the person, records of their media appearances, and the pictures and videos they've uploaded. We've talked about Icanstock before. After a year of running, the service had been closed. Now this is what the site looks like. It's still worth visiting though, for example, to read up on how to disable geotagging on your smartphone. In the year that the site was up, millions of people had been located using Icanstock. There are also a lot of services that make money out of invading your privacy. Services like readnotify.com or mylife.com intrude on your privacy by breaching the confidentiality of your emails and discussions you hold. Let's see how they work. Let's start with mylife.com. You can only access the service fully after you've registered. After submitting a first and last name, a long list of found people is displayed. The list features pictures, ages, and locations. You can even contact people via email. A full profile and records on the selected person will be available after paying a monthly fee. As you can see, it's a hard job maintaining your privacy on the internet. Multigo is the last of the services I'd like you to know about. We've discussed search engines to make you realize how much of people's personal information is out there on the internet. Now let's see how these personal records can be exploited. Multigo is a tool for exploring data. I suppose you could call it a data mining tool. We'll use the non-commercial version 304 of the application. Let's say we're interested in the intel.com domain. We'd like to find out if this business address has been given in social networking services. In Multigo, any starting point can be transformed to find a range of information on a given object. One of the options available in the tool is to search for email addresses. Running this option brings up initial results. Assume you'd like to get in touch with someone who works for Company X. Calling the company won't do much good since giving out employees' email addresses is against privacy policy. By submitting a company's domain name as a question in Multigo, you can learn the email addresses used by the company's employees. And all found output can be the starting point of another action. If the starting point is the name of a person, you can run actions to find their address, people they email, or their MySpace account. Before we move on to cybercriminals, I'd like to mention another aspect of social media security. There's a tool called Facebook Blaster Pro. It's a commercial software used for sending spam. It targets fans of celebrities and other famous people. As you know, celebrities have fan pages on Facebook. The Justin Bieber fan page, for example, has more fans on Facebook than there are people in Norway and Ireland put together. How can you send emails to this many people? Buy and install Facebook Blaster Pro. The people you want to send spam to don't have to be your Facebook friends. It's enough that you like the same fan page. Facebook Blaster Pro will extract the email addresses of all fans and send them to you. As you can see, the program is advertised as a great marketing tool that can boost sales. It claims that it's the perfect tool for telling a broad audience that you've written a book. Let's now set aside the issue of online privacy. I hope that I've managed to convince you that there's a lot of information available on the internet that should be treated as confidential. There's a new approach towards privacy that has emerged recently, and this approach directly affects the shape of our security and the security of our systems. Cybercriminals. I've refrained from using the word hacker in this course. It's been so overused that it's ceased to mean anything. Cybercriminals should be defined by two characteristics: their motivation and their skills. Where do hackers fit in this graph? With equal probability, a hacker could be a script kid, an unskilled individual who scans a computer and launches a pre-made exploit out of curiosity, or an expert who wants to make money. The red portion of the market is growing the fastest, and it's the most dangerous. You need to guard yourself against these criminals. Let's find out if this is really true. I'll give you a couple of real stories in chronological order. The first is a story of a gentleman known as Boa, a criminal working in the 90s who set up a website that offered credit card numbers for sale at a good price. At its peak, the website had a selection of 154,000 stolen credit card details. The credit card numbers were stolen from large international corporations. How was this possible? Boa and his partners did not use any exploits for their attacks. They instead struck a deal with Marriott Hotel's porters and other people, or sent one of their men to take a job in a company when it searched for a skilled worker. A simple and efficient method. Boa was eventually arrested in Cyprus and extradited to the US. He was charged with defrauding over $2.5 million. It was revealed during the investigation that he was also engaged in a Cyprus-based money laundering company that washed billions. There's a happy ending in this story. Boa and his partners, Igor Anatoly Tereshchenko and others, were arrested. What's relevant for us is that their fraud did not involve electronic intrusions into computer systems. This is why it brought such great results. If we want to paint a fuller picture of cybercriminals, we need to mention the attack that hit Blue Security in 2005. Blue Security announced the release of a new product, an anti-spam filter. This filter was not like any of the anti-spam filters we know and use today. It didn't block spam. The tool instead detected the spammer's address and sent back a complaint. Thanks, I don't want to receive spam from you. The system utilized a retaliation mechanism. A server that sent a lot of spam messages received a lot of answers. It was successfully attacked, and the attack resulted in a denial of service. The story of Blue Security is quite interesting. You can see here a message that was emailed to users of the tool that Blue Security provided. It was written and sent by PharmaMaster, a Russian online seller of fake Viagra. As you see, PharmaMaster obtained email addresses of Blue Security users. The attackers broke into the Blue Security system and extracted a database with users' addresses. In the message, PharmaMaster warns users that Blue Security is the real spammer. To give more weight to the email, PharmaMaster also sent it to Blue Security. Sending spam to spammers in this way was large-scale. As a Blue Security user, you're in for a backlash from furious internet communities. If you don't get rid of the tool, your address will be put on a spamming list, and there can be other trouble as well. As you see reading this email, uninstalling the system will be for your benefit. Don't install it ever again. Apart from attacking Blue Security users, the servers of the company were also targeted. The first step was to block foreign access to the Israeli company's servers. Next, global access was cut off. Transporting services to servers of an external provider that specialized in guarding against denial of service attacks did not help. The attackers won this time. Blue Security withdrew the Blue Frog project and folded soon after. In the released official statement, the company said that it did not want to escalate the war. The stories of Roman Boa Vega and the attack on Blue Security show that cybercriminals aren't just bored script kids who try to launch some program they found on the internet after school. Let's now take a look at the BlaBla program. The software was designed to monitor the data passing through TJX's computer network to sniff out credit card numbers from the corporation. The sniffer was later used to steal credit card details from other companies. A Cuban American, Albert Gonzalez, was the mastermind behind the attack. Gonzalez had been recognized as an expert in the computer system security field. Before he decided to set up his own business, he was also working for several government institutions. Gonzalez set about his business by first asking his friend Stephen Watt to create the BlaBla scanner. Antiviruses and intrusion detection systems failed because BlaBla was custom designed. The software was installed in the TJX network and stole 45 million credit card numbers in 2 months' time. The attack was a huge success, but let's also pay attention to something that happened in the aftermath. TJX was able to keep their customer base. The company detected the intrusion after a few months, informed their customers of the data breach, and even paid millions in damages. The attack, however, did not make the business collapse. In the following year, record sales and earnings were announced. This means that we, as customers, can and will forgive a company when our transaction details, including personal information, are poorly protected or compromised. We'll return to this subject later. Stephen Watt, Albert Gonzalez, and other members of the conspiracy were arrested and charged. Watt pleaded guilty and is to pay $170 million in restitution. Albert Gonzalez, as the brains and leader of the operation, is serving a 25-year prison sentence and will have to pay $70 million in damages. Another story worth mentioning is the exploits connected to ads for Chinese penis enlargement pills. A virus dubbed Stormworm was created in 2007 and spread as an attachment to emails. If it was launched, the worm infected a computer and merged it into a zombie net. Affected machines sent penis enlargement spam ads. Online ad businesses are paid if a redirected visitor clicks on one of the banners on a page. Stormworm creators made several $1,000s a day in this way. And there was always the chance that someone would actually buy the advertised product. The group behind the attack made fighting the worm harder because it attacked the servers of all antivirus companies that blocked attachments containing the virus. That's it for an overview on different types of cybercriminals. To end this module, I'd like to talk a bit about cyber war and cyber terrorism. Incidents of both types of warfare have already been launched. The first cyber war broke out in 2007 when China attacked Germany and the US. Soon after, Estonia became victim of another wave of cyber attacks. We'll look into this later. Cyber warfare will emerge as a more and more prevalent reality, unfortunately. Why is that? It's easy to attack a computer system. It's easier than attacking, let's say, a commuting system. You don't need many resources or planning. You don't even have to be at the scene of the crime. It's not hard to locate the missile launcher in the first picture of the slide. The Russians learned that the hard way when they tried to plant it in Cuba. The bottom picture shows a typical housing estate. You can launch an effective cyber attack from there, an attack which is impossible to detect. You don't need a nuclear missile silo either. An internet connection will be enough. What are the methods of cyber warfare? First, espionage. It's very easy to send information over the internet without attracting anyone's attention. It's possible to hide data in a picture posted on a service. The picture can be viewed by anyone, but only the person who's in the know can read the letter hidden in the image. Can you do this in the internet? Of course you can. Arab Spring is a good example of how effective internet propaganda and networking can be. All Arab governments attempted to significantly reduce or even ban internet services. While the outcome wasn't successful, this whole situation, the first of its kind, really makes one think. We'll now move on to denial of service attacks. Try to think of what could happen if there was no internet for a day, a week, or a month. You wouldn't be able to read your emails, log into your account in a social networking service, your smartphone wouldn't work, and you wouldn't be able to buy or sell anything online. But that's not all. It's possible to attack and stop, or at least hinder, the functionality of specialist computer systems. Electricity, water supply, or television are all services that can be remotely blocked. A magnetic cloud can even block those systems which are not connected to the internet. The final point in this module will talk about some specific instances of cyber war. First, there's Estonia in 2007. The attacks began around the time when a monument commemorating Soviet soldiers, the Bronze Soldier of Tallinn, was removed from the city center. First speculations pointed to the Russian Federation as being behind this attack. The DOS attack, which lasted for 3 weeks, targeted banks and administration infrastructure. Embassies were blocked. For 3 weeks, the country's information flow services were paralyzed. The Kremlin refused to assume responsibility for the sabotage, but at the same time admitted that it would be able to run a large-scale attack of this kind. A year later, as some of you may remember, Russian forces invaded Georgia. Standard military operations were concurrent with cyber attacks that targeted government servers. Torrent networks were utilized. All network traffic was redirected to governmental websites. This resulted in a complete denial of service, which means that government websites and Georgian press agencies' websites were all blocked. Another instance of cyber warfare occurred in 2010, when Google detected that some of their accounts set up on Google servers were being monitored. Email accounts that belonged to Chinese dissidents were monitored by sniffer programs installed on client computers. This was revealed also because a lot of simultaneous connections to one account were detected from many locations in China. It turned out that incoming and outgoing information on the accounts had been spied on for a long time. Accounts of US and EU-based Chinese human rights activists were also targeted in the same way. During its investigation, Google also found traces of attacks that hit some high-tech American companies. These attacks aimed to steal intellectual property and technologies that were being developed by the companies. The last case I'd like you to know about is the Stuxnet worm. We're moving on to the latest history now. The worm hit Iran in June of 2010. It was a highly specific worm written for PLC devices that hid itself by using a rootkit. The technology used to develop Stuxnet had to be highly sophisticated, as the motivation behind the attack was to impede the Iranian nuclear program. The virus might have been spread into uranium enrichment plants through a USB flash drive. The infected drives would have needed to be connected to a computer that controlled centrifuges used for cooling nuclear fuel. The Iranian staff broke basic security rules. The virus exploited vulnerabilities that were unknown at the point of attack. The US and Israel have been obviously speculated to be involved in the attacks. The virus caused centrifuges to malfunction by slowing them down and making them work faster after a few weeks. This behavior should have been immediately detected at the uranium enrichment plant, and immediate steps should have been taken. The Iranians had replaced about 1,000 centrifuges before they understood that they were under attack. The nuclear program was not stopped, however. 2 Iranian scientists were later killed in bomb explosions, which can also be linked to the attack. Summing up, it has to be highlighted that cybercriminals don't seek publicity. They don't want to be media heroes. The dangerous rationale behind their attacks is motivated by greed or national interest. This is an indirect reason which explains why we don't hear much nowadays on cyber attacks. They aren't launched to bring their creators fame. They're intended to be stealthy and bring money. Thank you.